Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The City Council is reconvening from closed session. And to report out, by a vote of 4-0, with Vice Mayor Dedrix being absent, the City Council authorized and directed the City Attorney's Office to defend the case of Tucker versus City of Elk Grove, United States District Court, Eastern District of California, case number 2:20-CV-01620-TLN-KJN. And that is all to report, and I'll go ahead and adjourn the special meeting of the City Council at 6 p.m. And at this point, I'd like to call to order the regular City Council meeting on Wednesday, September the 23rd at 6 p.m. Mr. Clerk.
And thank you, Mayor Lee. This meeting of the Elk Grove City Council will be replayed on Metro Cable Channel 14 on Friday, September 25th at 1 p.m. and Tuesday, September 29th at 6 p.m. It is being closed captioned and will be webcast at sacmetrocable.tv. City Council meeting videos are also archived on the city's website at elkgrovecity.org. For members of the participating audience who may have personal electronic devices, please place them on silent mode during the meeting or on mute when you are not speaking. Consistent with Executive Orders N-29-20 and N-35-20 issued by the Governor of the State of California, this meeting will be conducted by teleconference only. Meeting location will be the City Council chamber, but it will not be open to the public. The Elk Grove City Council welcomes, appreciates, and encourages participation in the City Council meeting. City Council requests that you limit your presentation to 3 minutes per person so that all present will have time to participate. City Council reserves the right to reasonably limit the total time for public comment on any particular noticed agenda item as it may deem necessary. Pursuant to Resolution number 2010-24, no individual speaker concerning public comment may address the City Council for more than 3 minutes. The City Clerk will run a speaker timer, and after the first 2 minutes have passed, the City Clerk will state on the audio feed 1 minute remaining, indicating 1 minute remains to summarize comments. With that, Mr. Mayor, that'll take us to the roll call.
Right, roll call, please, Mr. Clerk.
For the roll call, Councilmember Nguyen.
Here.
Councilmember Hume.
Here.
Councilmember Suen.
Here.
Vice Mayor Dedrix is absent. And Mayor Lee.
I am here. Right, next item is Pledge of Allegiance. Folks, wherever you're at, if there's a flag in the room, please address it and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everyone. Next item.
That'll be item 1.3, the moment of silence.
At the beginning of every regular City Council meeting, the Council would like to invite members of the public to join us in a moment of silence. So if you could, join us, please. Thank you very much. Let's move to the next item.
Takes on to section 2, approval of the agenda.
Okay, members, I have an agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Roll call, please.
For the roll call vote for the approval of the agenda, Councilmember Nguyen.
Yes.
Councilmember Hume.
Aye.
Councilmember Suen.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dedrix is absent, and Mayor Lee.
Yes.
It'll pass 4-0. Take us on to section 3, our closed session. There are no items scheduled under section 3. So that'll take us on to section 4, our presentations and announcements, with one presentation being item 4.1, which is a proclamation recognizing October 3rd, 2020 as the 10th anniversary of Ostomy Awareness Day.
Okay, I'd like to invite Councilmember Hume to take the lead on this, please.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand from the city clerk that we have Dan Drydock Shockley ready to provide comments, and whereas he is a person living with an ostomy, he was be way more eloquent than I, and so I'll skip most of the whereases, but to say that it is a type of surgery that allows for the evacuation of waste outside the body through and non-normal means, and this can be due to birth defects, forms of cancer, or other medical conditions. There are over 725,000 Americans with an ostomy and approximately 100,000 new Americans each year. And this surgery does not lower life expectancy. And due to the work of people like Mr. Shockley, Americans needing these surgeries are becoming more aware of the opportunities for education, mutual aid, advocacy, and support. And then I will read this one. Whereas the city of Elk Grove is committed to increasing public understanding of ostomy to eventually help dispel the fear of those about to undergo this surgery, as well as the fear that confronts their families. This day can serve as a reminder to the American public that this is a life-saving and life-restoring surgery. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Elk Grove hereby proclaims October 3rd, 2020 as Ostomy Awareness Day. Ostomies are lifesavers. Celebrates the 10th anniversary of the observance and calls upon all residents of the City of Elk Grove to unite on this day in a showing of support to shine a positive light on this life-saving surgery, signed this 23rd day of September 2020.
Excellent. Thank you, council members. Mr. Shockley here.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Dan Drydock Shockley. I'm retired Navy. I'm an 8-year hereditary colon cancer warrior with an ostomy for the last 8 years. And it's on behalf of the United Ostomy Associations of America, I've reached out to you and your staff to recognize the 3rd of October as Ostomy Awareness Day. This is their 10th anniversary, and this is my 8th year representing the UOAA for this campaign. And I'm just, it's an honor and a privilege to be able to be in the community here to share my journey on the importance of the how much ostomy has allowed me to enjoy the rest of my life. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Shockley, and thank you for reaching out to Councilmember Hume. I really am appreciative of you making that effort. So very well done, and looking forward to seeing you next year. All right, let's move to the next item.
The next item would be Section 5, our public comment. Participating members of the viewing audience may comment on any item not on the agenda that is of interest to the public within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Each person will be allowed 3 minutes or less if a large number of requests are received on a particular subject. City Council cannot take action on non-agendized items raised under public comment until the matter has been specifically included on an agenda as an action item. Members of the public desiring a response to a specific question are encouraged to contact any member of the council or the city manager at any time. Those participating members who wish to address a specific agendized item are encouraged to offer their public comments during consideration of that item. Mayor and council members, to give you a sense of our public comment that we've received to date, I had 2 written comments that came in and were distributed to the full city council and staff. And I also have, I believe I have 14 callers at this point, though there are a few more coming in as the meeting did start up. But we have a series of callers and we can commence with bringing them into the meeting.
Jason, we have our first caller on the line. Caller, you may go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Trina Bird. I am a Black woman, a 20-plus year resident and homeowner in Elk Grove. I would first like to ask that Mayor Steve Lee resign and stop embarrassing our Elk Grove with your two-faced rhetoric. Steve Lee has misled our people. Steve Lee has misled his own people by spreading lies about our school board trustee, Bobby Singh Allen. Anybody who knows her knows that she is above reproach. She's a champion for our children and is none of the things that have come as a result of the things that he has said about her. Your words have put lives in danger, Steve Lee, and this is beyond the opposite of what a mayor is supposed to do. You are a failed leader hiding behind the good works of others, the others that truly care about Elk Grove and not their own personal agendas. I'd just like to ask again, Steve Lee, resign now. This ends my public comment.
Thank you.
And with those comments concluded, that'll take us to our next speaker under general public comment.
Caller, you may go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
This situation with Bobby Singh Allen has been ongoing since June. September is almost over. Every semblance of an apology Bobby has made to remedy her racist comments against the Hmong community has been turned into a whiny tantrum of, it is Steve Lee's fault and his associates are harassing me. Bobby, if asking you to see the error of your ways and to do the right thing is harassment, and you are simply an incorrigible, remorseless blame shifter. I'd like to share excerpts from a piece written on September 17th by a Sikh woman named Hasna Kaur. If you'd like to read this piece in its entirety, it can be found on medium.com. It is titled, Bobby Singh Allen Sold Out the Sikh Community. Bobby had always loved herself more than others. She puts herself first, and this goes against the teachings and beliefs of Sikh religion. Bobby has never attended any religious ceremony since her family was casted out of the Turlock Sikh community as a result of Bobby's father, Lakvinder Singh's action to openly gamble in the Sikh temple. This action is a violation of the Sikh religion. Bobby had recently returned to the Sikh temple, and it was not to confess her sins, but it was to ask for blessing and ask for monetary support to support the Elk Grove mayoral war. Again, she does not care who she hurts on her way to success. She had the temple openly fundraised for her mayoral campaign. Bobby will victim shame, victim blame, remove, and attack anyone who she sees as a threat to her while she moves up the totem pole, but she is eager to pull the victim card to gain sympathy from those who do not know her. Due to Bobby's conniving nature, she succeeded in talking Michelle Kyle out of the Elk Grove mayoral race and stole the lead from Jacqueline Marino. This mayoral race was supposed to be Jacqueline Marino's race. Due to Bobby Singh Allen's ambition to stay in the political arena and her history with the Sikh community, I am not at all surprised with the current events that are unfolding with the Hmong community. Bobby will burn the Hmong community in an attempt to win.
1 minute remains.
Let it be known, the Sikh community does not stand with Bobby Singh Allen. Bobby Singh Allen is not a person of integrity.
It does sound like that concluded the speaker's comments, and so staff will be moving towards bringing the next caller online.
Caller, you may go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I am here because I cannot get my voice heard at the Elk Grove Unified School District Board meetings, and I will be speaking at every City Council meeting until my concerns are addressed. Let me spell out to you the issues that are brewing in the city of Elk Grove at this moment. Racism, hate, divide, all spewing from your homegirl, Bobby Singh Allen's mouth, and most importantly, drugs. Is this who the city of Elk Grove wants as mayor? While the city of Elk Grove implemented educational systems to deter our children from using drugs in treatment centers to assist teams who are combating a drug abuse, Bobby Singh Allen, who is supposed to be a representative of our children, funds her mayor campaign with cannabis manufacturing companies. What is her hidden agenda? Is she wanting to become the mayor so this city can turn into a cannabis-infested city? I'd like to put forth in front of you, since you council members support and endorse this type of person, the racist statements Bobby has made, the hate Bobby has spewed onto the Hmong community, and the division Bobby has caused. Because according to Bobby, any Hmong person is an associate of Mayor Lee. So is it safe for me to say that any Vietnamese person or any person who shares the same familial name as Nguyen, an associate of yours, Stephanie, and that you sent them? This is as racist as it can get. Stop supporting drug dealer supporters in our community. Get out of here with the BS. Elk Grove need real leaders, and you council members do not meet that criteria and the definition of a leader. Step down, all of you. Thank you.
And that sounded like that concluded the speaker's comments. That'll take us on to our next speaker under general public comment. For any of our
Caller,
listeners,
you may go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Council members, I'm calling in today to express how disappointed I am to have learned that you endorsed Bobby Singh Allen. Of all the candidates you could have endorsed, you choose to endorse someone who has publicly shown her racist side. You, like many others, choose to turn a blind eye to what Bobby Singh Allen has done and is continuing to do. Your actions have shown the citizens of Elk Grove your lack of competence to address the racial discrimination within the city of Elk Grove. For you to sit in your little power seat and continued support of Bobby Singh Allen clearly shows you don't deserve the seat you're in. Let's get real. You don't care for the city of Elk Grove unless your pockets are filled. As for Bobby Singh Allen, you don't deserve your school board trustee seat or the mayor's seat. Since I cannot get my voice heard at Elk Grove Unified School District, I'm here to call you out. If you can't grow an extra layer of skin to handle criticism, you won't be able to handle the larger issue of Elk Grove. Instead of listening to the concerned citizens that are coming to you, you turn them away. As an elected official, you utilize your power and connections to slander private citizens for your personal gain. Your dirty politics will not get you anywhere, my dear. I've seen you slander Mia all over social media. You tried so hard to connect Mia as the mayor's supporter. Heck, you connect all of us who are Hmong to the mayor. Isn't that racial profiling? We are Hmong, and we are not misled. You block every single person who disagrees with your narrative on social media. You can try to silence us as much as you want, but we are not going anywhere. You're a pathetic, self-absorbed narcissist that only cares about your own personal gain. Those who are ignorant will not see what you're doing wrong. Those who can see through your ugly self know that you're only lying. Your fake cry during the press conference did not move us. It only made us stronger because you continue to target our community. I'm pretty sure you know what karma is within the Sikh community. In the Hmong community, we also believe in karma. So Bobby Singh Allen, your karma will come your way. Just keep walking down that path of yours. Good will always prevail. And just to be clear, this is not a threat.
1 minute remains. I believe the speaker concluded their comments after we got down to the 1 minute mark. With that, that'll take us on to our next speaker under Section 5, General Public Comment.
Caller, you may go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Jason and Nicole, for passing me through. First off, for Elk Grove Tribune, also known as the mouthpiece for Bobby Singh Allen, if you're listening, this is not Mia Foster and this is not my tool. I'm not even Hmong, and so don't associate us. In any case, it was brought to light that in 2014, Steve Dedrix was fined by the FTPC for illegally using campaign funds for personal expenses, over $90,000 to pay for his son's personal debt. On top of that, he used campaign funds for a trip to Sonoma, California. I don't know how you were able to get reelected. Maybe voters were not aware. If you want to lecture anyone on ethics violation, please start with yourself first. It was reported you have not repaid these funds you essentially extorted from donors. We're interested in knowing what did all these big donors, mostly developers, get in return for helping to pay off your son's debt. Such poor judgment. In your 2014 700 form statement of economic interest, you checked off that you earn over $100,000 from a year from your employment with PG&E, and your wife brought in between $10,000 to $100,000 on top of rental income. Come on, man. Why not pay off the kids' debt with your own money? Did you illegally use campaign funds thinking no one will find out? What other backdoor deals do you have going on? This should make all Elk Grovians question the person you are endorsing to fill your seat. What are you getting behind the scenes for this endorsement? Kevin Spees, you would be running with on or without Dedrix's endorsement, but now we just don't know what deals you two have going on. I would like to ask the City Council to add an item to the agenda in January after Dedrix leaves office. This can be called the Dedrix Act, where no one found guilty of campaign violation can hold public office as an elected official to represent Elk Grove, specifically in Elk Grove City Council Hall or school board. I hope you all do want the seat to represent integrity. So
1
many have
minute
been
remains.
word around without the understanding of the definition. Please live up to the meaning of the word and not wear it as a mask. One final note to Mr. Paul Lindsay. I don't know if you were lied to or if you already know the truth about the bogus translation you spoke about during the September 9th City Hall meeting. In case you were lied to, those translations are not court certified. I repeat, not court certified. Jake Rambo initiated the arrangement for translation from an agency in Los Angeles. The agency explained to Pablo Espinoza that court certification translations would cost over $3,000. Instead, Pablo Espinoza took the cheap route and paid $540 for incorrect translations from Vietnam, which was subbed out to China. Please learn the facts and stop spreading lies on behalf of Bobby St. Allen's campaign. If you were lied to, then maybe consider what else her campaign is lying about. Have a good night.
I believe that concluded the speaker's comments. That'll take us to our next speaker under Section 5 of General Public Comment.
Caller, you may go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
All I can say is, yowza, you guys thought we were back. Good evening. My name is Constance Conley, and the following is a portion of my written public comment for Agenda Item 5.0. Fight for the things you care about. Does this Elk Grove City Council believe in those words? Those are the words of the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. May a champion of human rights rest in eternal peace. When no one else would speak out publicly because of fear of retribution, except Sandy Russell, I fought on the citizen side for the city of Elk Grove to form our own police department. That was because we wanted a police department that absolutely believed in community policing. Because I put myself at risk and was threatened for doing so, I feel I have earned the right to speak up now. I did fight for what I cared about, the people of Elk Grove getting the police department we deserved. And don't get me started on the $50 million the taxpayers paid for police services we didn't receive. Pat Hume, you even compiled a paper on community policing that was disseminated citywide during the selection for a new police chief after Chief Simmons retired. Do you remember? Because I was not afraid then, and I'm not afraid now, I firmly believe that what occurred with Tobias Eagle and then with Muhammad Ishmael speaks to the fact that more needs to be done when it comes to racial and ethnic relations throughout the entire city government, starting with the Elk Grove City Council. The buck does stop with you. Officer Misty Johnson stated she asks everyone she pulls over if they are on probation or parole. Yes, she did ask Mr. Eagle, but according to Mr. Ishmael, she did not ask him. Both were pulled over by Officer Johnson on the same day for the same offense, rolling a stop sign. Was this racial profiling? Have any of you Elk Grove City Council members ever been on parole or probation? Were any of you ever pulled over for a traffic violation such as speeding under rolling a stop sign and asked that same question? With what occurred with Officer Johnson tells me we must continue to examine the nature of race relations in our community and the measures that can be utilized to both protect the rights of citizens and promote an environment of tolerance, understanding, and harmonious racial and ethnic relations. In closing, I strongly believe that leadership is a critical ingredient of good governance. As the elected officials of the city, what is at issue here and what needs to be addressed by the entire Elk Grove City Council is that this City Council has been silent on this issue. Why is that? And Jason, that's the end of my public comment.
Thank you.
And thank you for letting us know that you've completed your comment, and that'll take us on to our next speaker under Section 5, General Public Comment.
Caller, you may go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Stewart Vital. I am a over 20-year resident of Elk Grove, and we have spoken many times, especially about race relations in Elk Grove. I have asked City Council many times, and I ask again, to tell the public, please, what it is that we are doing to improve race relations in Elk Grove when our police department is still acting like people are guilty before proven innocent in a court of law, still
on their guns when they're pulling people over, talking to people about tickets, and having their hands on their weapons. That's not okay. It should never be allowed. And this culture of fear that the police department is putting out there, instead of healing our race relations and fear in general of the police department, it needs to be fixed. And training needs to happen. And I would like to know each and every one of your plans moving forward, how you are going to help heal this rift in Elk Grove.
1 minute remains.
A lot of people like to say, oh, not in Elk Grove, oh, it's not here, because we haven't had someone shot yet. Yet being the key word. But I've been saying for the past year that Elk Grove is going to end up going viral because people are videotaping now. And guess what? Now we have a viral video of a cop with a Blue Lives Matter flag over her face, pulling over a black man who gave her his driver's license and registration and refused to run the information until she had backup. You've got to be kidding me. This is the end of my comment. Thank you.
I was on mute. Thank you, speaker, for letting us know. And that'll take us on to our next speaker under Section 5, general public comment.
Caller, you may go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Steve Lee and City Council member. Due to elected public official like Bobby Singh Allen using the citizen of Elk Grove's right to freedom of speech during the City Council meeting and using it as a personal attack in order to silence the voice of the people, for that reason, I would like my identity to be kept confidential. The City Council may ask why we keep calling in to the City Council chambers about Bobby Singh Allen and her evil, racist action and statement towards the Hmong community. I will tell you this. It is because the City Council member Hume, Dedrix, Suwan, and Nguyen invited racism, hate, and politics into the Elk Grove City Council chambers. It started with the City Council members stated one thing in the chambers to the public, and the next day endorsed a racist, hateful, bigoted individual named Bobby Singh Allen for mayor. Your endorsement tells the general public you too are bigoted, intolerant, and hateful. To put it simply, to endorse racists like Bobby Singh Allen speaks for itself. You, yes, you, Hume, Dietrich, Suwan, and Nguyen, support racism, hate against your own constituents here in Elk Grove. Your inability to comprehend what you're doing tells us, the voters, to question your judgment. To support and endorse racist action and statements is one of the most, to endorse racist action statements in one of the most diverse cities in the nation tells us that your hate toward Mayor Steve Lee and among individual has been clouded your judgment. To help correct what may be unintentional support racism by the City Council, it is recommended that city leadership needs to make a public statement and a statewide campaign of anti-racism and anti-hate. As being non-racist is not enough. We must be anti-racist and anti-hate. I hope we hear this outcry loud and clear and not dismiss this as a political or Mayor Steve Lee's dogs, gang members, or mafia sit here to attack. It is not Steve that caused us to be here. It is you, the City Council, Nguyen, Suwan, and Dietrich, and Hume, and your political gains and support of racism and hate. It is concerning and problematic.
1 minute remains.
This is not a political issue or anything that has to do with politics. It's about racism by Bobby Singh Allen and your support of it. Our concern will be here before, during, and after the election because this has nothing to do with the election. Let me be very clear to City Council who claims this is political. It appears City Council has selective listening. It's not political, and Mayor Steve Lee did not send us. I repeat that 3 times, third time. It's not political, and Mayor Steve did not send us. Put your hate at Mayor Steve Lee's side is clear and obvious. As a resident of Elk Grove, I ask the City Council publicly condemn racism and hate towards the Hmong community and any community. Do not attempt to spin the situation as your first City Councilman when done before and still one place follow the leader, reflect and redirect it to cultural and sensitivity training and so forth. It's clear to the Hmong community that Bobby Singh Allen's actions and statement are racist. We hope you recognize that. My hope is the City Council comes out of this stronger and better. I hope that you will all learn from this experience of not inviting racism and hate into public chambers and not allow your political friends to weaponize City Council. We all make mistakes, but it's how we deal and react to those mistakes. Be accountable for your action. That this is all that I ask. Stop shifting blame. That it is high.
Your time is up, sir.
And do better.
Thank you.
And with those comments concluded, that'll take us to our next speaker under Section 5, General Public Comment.
Caller, you may go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening to the City Council. I first and foremost want to understand who are we talking to, because I see a nameless panel over here. You know, I was already upset all these times because there is no live person that we are talking to. Is this symbolic to the fact that the City Council turns a deaf ear to every public speaker? Because I have not seen the City Council address a single issue that has been going on every single public comment, multiple people, multiple meetings. So is this wall a message to the public that you really do not serve the public, but behind the scenes you run and operate a private club? That is what it's beginning to look like, isn't it? How can we be speaking to people who have no names here on the panel? That is an embarrassment. We need names and we need live people that can actually engage with the public. I think only then you will listen, because Stephanie demonstrated beautifully how she turned a deaf ear to 100 callers when she jumped on her agenda, her personal private club agenda, by completely ignoring the people who were talking to her. Clearly, she didn't listen, because behind this wall, you guys are probably having coffee and having a party. That's what it looks like. I think the people of Elk Grove should demand that each of you sit here live, connect to the public, and interact with them. Coming back to the white elephant here, Bobby Singh Allen, her situation remains status quo because now it's beginning to become more and more clear that she really cannot comprehend, number one. Everybody who directs the question to her, whether it's a Hmong or a non-Hmong, when we talk to Bobby Singh Allen's issue, her IQ prompts to only one name, and that is Steve Lee. What is even more horrific is that the City Council turns a deaf ear, and all they can hear is Bobby Singh Allen's comment towards Steve Lee. But
1 minute remains.
That she really does not have the ability to comprehend. She deflects. She's got paranoia. And on a Facebook comment that wasn't even a threat, this lady cannot comprehend what threat is and what is a non-threat. This gentleman said, "You're a racist. You're an ugly whatever, and I hope you die a slow death." This is hurt. This is anger. This is not a threat. He did not say, "I will kill you." This woman cannot comprehend. Then she goes to the public and has an emotional incontinence in front of everybody, crying like a baby, calling him somebody who's threatening with the duck hunting guns that he happened to have on his Facebook page. Is something wrong with everybody's ability to see that this woman cannot even comprehend what a threat is? I am sick and tired of her deflecting and calling everybody Steve Lee's associate, while her stooges continue to harass people, block them, threaten, even go to the extent of picking an attorney's name to try to scare the people.
Time is up. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I hope you learn who Bobby Singh Allen is. She's a racist. And she needs to come down, and so do all of you on City Council if you do not comprehend a simple, glaring deficiency in her. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And staff will be pulling in our next speaker under Section 5, General Public Comment.
Caller, you may go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Janeway June, longtime Elk Grove resident, east of Highway 99. I just want to start off with a headline from elkgrovenews.net. The headline reads, Dedrix validates narratives of Elk Grove City Council racist. I want to remind the council, since it seems it needs reminded, that on August 12th, the council added item 10.4 to the agenda to try and censure the mayor. A staff report provided by the city attorney has only 4 bullet points of alleged evidence. 3 of those were testimonials by 3 women that claimed they were harassed by strange persons that might be Hmong. Well, because of that, you reckon that those people might be working for the mayor. Well, guess what? That's racist. And you decided that was enough to try and censure the mayor. And of course, Bobby Singh Allen then went on to say that the Hmong clan system, and I quote, is a controlling and intimidating system used to attack and silence women, end quote. Oh yeah, Bobby Singh, that's racist. And all of you 4 on the council, you endorsed that racist statement by endorsing her as a candidate. The staff report also references the clan system. So when you say that a whole culture isn't being indicted here, well, them all are very nice people. So it's not very convincing. Instead, it just makes it seem like, well, that ElkGroveNews.net headline ain't so far off. Now, I just want to ask, which one of you is brave enough to say that y'all ain't racist? At the same time, acknowledge that your actions have been improved, acting accordingly. So that's what Elk Grove needs in order to heal. Jason, that concludes my statement. Thank you.
And with that, that'll take us to our next speaker under Section 5, General Public Comment. I would just say for folks that have signed up to speak under general public comment, you should be expecting a phone call from the city of Elk Grove in order to pull you in. You need to be able to respond to your phone from the phone number that you provided to us for us to be able to call you and pull you into the meeting. So anyone viewing this, if you are signed up to speak, please be aware that you need to be at the ready and have your phone near if you're under Section 5 of general public comment, that the city will be reaching out to you in order to patch you through into the meeting.
And Jason, we have our next caller on the line. You may go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mark Graham, Elk Grove. Well, 2 weeks ago today, I recommended that the council go to the homes at 9921 Winkle Circle and 9925 Winkle Circle, knock on the door and have a conversation with the women that own these 2 houses. As you may recall, and I'm asking you, did you do that? Councilmember Wynn, Councilmember Suen, Councilmember Dedrix, Councilmember Hume, Mayor Lee, did you go and speak to these women? What you should tell them is that the city has approved a new 4G and 5G cell antenna on a light pole that is extremely close to their house. It's very close to 9921. It's like 20 feet from the edge of the house. And then this will blast them with electromagnetic radiation 24/7 for at least 10 years. That's the length of the permit, which has not been issued. What you should tell them, explain to them that you thought it was a good idea for the city to sacrifice their health for corporate profit. You need to knock on the door and talk to these people face to face and look in the eyes of the constituents whom you have placed in harm's way. Part of being in touch with your constituents and hearing from them. I don't know what can be done now, but you approved the site, but the permit's not issued. Also, what you owe them really is 2 things: an explanation and an apology. Any 2 council members form a pair and go to 9921 Winkle Circle, and any 2 other council members form another pair and go to 9925 and have these conversations. Also, I found out since the last meeting that Franklin High School is also charged. for a new cell antenna, as is Toby Johnson Middle School. The city never reached out to Franklin High School or Toby Johnson Middle School, nor to the people whose children go to those schools, nor to the people that live nearby. You should do that now. You should make a commitment tonight that you will be fully transparent about all of this before the permits are issued, and those permits are not issued. And ask their opinion. And find out if they think it's a good idea and if they consent to it. I spoke to the principal at, I believe it was Cosumnes Oaks High School, about that new antenna, which is at intersection of Bighorn Boulevard and Hopewell Drive. He did not know. He did not know that the city had approved that as a Verizon cell antenna site. Haven't been able to speak to the principal of Elizabeth Pinkerton Middle School yet, but I will continue to try that. And the problem, council, is that's why you stayed on the sidelines during the time of the
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Your time is up.
All right. That's all. Good night.
Thank you.
And that will take us on to our next caller signed up under Section 5, General Public Comment.
Caller, you may go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Awesome, thank you. Good afternoon, City Council members. My name is Lynn Enriquez, and I'm a youth commissioner for the city. I am also working on this thing called Gen Up, which is a youth-led organization in our community that we're trying to get started. There are several youth commissioners that are a part of this organization. At the moment, we're looking for an adult ally, which is why I came to you today. I am proposing an idea for you guys that somebody sign up as an adult ally, because we are really in need of one, because we can only do so much as youth. Basically what Gen Up is getting youth involved in education activism and having them become more involved in, just what's going on and what they're being taught in schools. And this is really important because it's a direct link to getting youth involved in local politics and getting them involved in, things like, the importance of government in school, or the not importance of government in school. Nevertheless, we are looking for an adult ally for Gen Up, and if you are interested, please feel free to reach out to me. What else? Let's see. Just checking my notes right here. Okay, some updates from the Youth Commission. So our last meeting, we picked our communications officer, our secretary, and our historian. Our next meeting, we will be picking our vice chair and chair. Let's see. Oh, Governor Newsom was talking about banning gasoline vehicles in 2035, and I think this is a great move for our state, great direction that we're headed in, and I would encourage the city council members to, follow in that footstep and really let's get some progressive education, climate activism going. I'm really proud of, the fact that Gavin Newsom is taking this step, because it's so important to the youth who are going to be impacted by these devastating effects of climate change and the climate crisis. So yeah, that's what I came to you guys to say. Just a little ramble, and hope you guys are doing well.
Thank you for your comment. Please contact my office. I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about the Gen Up, okay?
All right, thank you so much.
And let me touch base with staff. If we still have, I have one more that I just received in my inbox. I'll be forwarding over soon, but just to make sure that we're getting all of our speakers. We're having a hard time connecting with some folks out there. And hold on just a moment. I think I hear someone speaking in the next room, but I'm not sure we have the audio on. And we may need to reset that speaker, staff.
I just did. Caller, if you want to go ahead and start over so we can make sure we caught all that.
I'm sorry about that, speaker. It's just kind of the tech here.
Dear City Council, dear Mayor, my name is Anthony Rentieri. I'm a longtime Elk Grove resident. And the problem that I have is that we have callers who are calling in to complain about someone who's not even elected. This person, Bobby Singh Allen, is not in office right now. So it seems like that the mayor's followers are calling in to complain about someone, to use the city council meetings as some kind of campaign strategy to discredit someone who's not even in office. It would be like if I were to call in and complain about somebody, my neighbor, and had 50 or 60 people call in and complain about them. It's idiotic. It's a waste of taxpayers' dollars. Or if you want to beat someone down in the campaign process, then do it on the campaign. Don't do it during city council meetings and waste my tax dollars. I think this is poor management by the mayor. And I think this is just a systemic part of the process that he uses to try and push people down and try to make his narrative fit when it really shouldn't fit. If I was the mayor, I would call him and say, listen, you know what? I'll handle my campaign outside of the city council chambers, all right? He's an elected person. The other person is not an elected person. Let's worry about the campaign on the campaign trail, not in a city council meeting that's wasting my taxpayers' dollars. That's the end of my comment. Thank you.
And that concluded that speaker's comments. And I just wanted to touch base with staff. I did send over just one more since last time I was speaking, but I just had one more on my checklist, if you will.
I have that caller on the line.
Thank you much.
Just one moment. Caller, you may go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
On July 16th, I sent an email to all Elk Grove elected officials regarding Bobby Singh Allen's racist remarks about the Hmong community. That very same day, my email, which was sent in private as a concerned citizen of Elk Grove, was leaked to a notoriously abusive individual named Linda Vu, who then proceeded to use my email to harass me on Facebook. I wondered then, as I wonder now, which one of you leaked my email? The individuals Linda tagged on that post included Bobby, Jacqueline Moreno, Stephanie Nguyen, Steve Dedrix, Pablo Espinoza, Nancy Chavez Espinoza, and Jackie Chung. Back then, I didn't know who half of those people were, but my guess is that at least 1 out of the 5 tagged elected officials on that post is guilty of leaking the emails of private citizens for them to be harassed. Little did I realize that that would be the first of many attempts to suppress my voice as a Hmong woman living in Elk Grove. On September 15th, Bobby publicly slandered me during a press conference by misattributing an audio clip from the September 9th Elk Grove City Council meeting to me. Think about that for a moment. An elected official used her position to shame a private citizen, thereby placing a target on her back, who was exercising her constitutional rights to engage in these meetings. This is who you're endorsing, city council members. Be honest with yourself. Would you stand for it if it was the mayor who had held a press conference to call out private citizens who called into every meeting demanding for his resignation? Don't answer that. Your Steve derangement syndrome gave you away. On September 17th, I sent Bobby an email requesting that she issue a public apology and a retraction in the same format she slandered me in, through the form of a press conference. My request was ignored. This is who you're endorsing, city council members. It's been made clear that I'm being targeted by Bobby Singh Allen because I have been one of the more vocal Elk Grove parents who's come out in opposition against a continual misrepresentation of the Hmong community.
Remains.
During the press conference, when asked if she can conclude that a man by the name of Kong Lee, who sent her a distasteful Facebook message, was a supporter of the mayor, Bobby responded, yeah, you can make that conclusion. He's a Hmong individual. Hey, Bobby, if you're upset about being called a racist, maybe, just maybe, you should stop acting like one. Perhaps the first thing you can do to restore your tarnished image is by not racial profiling Hmong people. I am sick and tired of elected officials racial profiling the Hmong community as being supporters of the mayor anytime we speak up. Even if someone was a Steve Lee supporter, does that make your racism any less wrong? And I am sick and tired of the elected officials who sit in silence and allow such blatant racism to be perpetrated against a good portion of their constituents. If this is the only strategy you have in your pocket to shut us up, you're going to have to try a lot harder.
And I believe that concluded the speaker's comments. And I believe we have one last caller on the line that's going to be patched through for their public comments.
Caller, you may go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to convey that I feel very strongly that public comment should not be used as a mayoral debate forum. These council meetings have become a complete shit show, and there should be some type of rule that public comments be related to public issues and concerns. The city council is not the school board, and you are not paid to manage Steve Lee's campaign. Thank you very much, and I hope you will seriously consider implementing some type of rule and stop using the city council as Steve Lee's personal mayoral debate stage. Thank you.
And I believe that was our last speaker signed up under general public comment, section 5. And I'm just doing one last sweep of what we've got from the inbox, but I think those are all of our speakers for section 5. With that, we can roll into section 6, which would be general administration information.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. City Manager, go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This is Jason Behrman, City Manager. Happy to report on a few important items happening around the city. First, the Animal Services team hosted a successful drive-through clinic on September 19th. The event was suspended for several months due to COVID-19 restrictions, but returned with safety modifications. A total of 53 cats and 154 dogs were treated with 332 vaccines. 55 animals received microchips. These events will continue quarterly at no cost to Elk Grove residents. The police department recently added a second full-time outreach officer to assist our homeless population. Officer Chris Cahill is a veteran officer who joined the department as a lateral officer from California Fish and Wildlife. Officers Cahill and McHugh will partner with our homeless navigator to mitigate encampments and provide wraparound services for our homeless community. To inform the 2021 to 2029 housing element update, the City of Elk Grove is planning to hold a second set of online town hall meetings to discuss the policies and programs that will be included in the housing element. The meetings will be on October 7th at noon and again at 7 p.m. Visit elkgrovecity.org/housing element for registration links. The city will be extending the public comment period on the California North State University Medical Center project draft environmental impact report by 15 days in response to a significant level of public participation. The comment period will now end on October 13th at 5 p.m. Comments may be sent by postal service, electronic mail, or hand-delivered. The city encourages electronic comments on the city's website. The draft EIR, all documents referenced in the draft EIR, and the record of the proceedings are available for public review at www.egplanning.org/environmental. Few COVID updates and a little bit of good news, at least heading in the right direction. It was announced yesterday that Sacramento County has met the necessary metrics to potentially move into the red tier, Tier 2, substantial, of the state's blueprint for a safer economy. The county must maintain numbers consistent with the red tier testing metrics for a second consecutive week. If that happens, our county could enter the red tier as soon as next Tuesday. What that means is there's a lot of reductions and restrictions on businesses here in town. Things such as movie theaters, gyms, and restaurants would be able to open up indoor service with certain limitations, as well as other modifications. Encourage the community to visit the county's public health website for more details. Additionally, Sacramento County has announced guidance for how to have a safe Halloween this year. The information will be posted on the city's website and promoted on our social media channels. Residents can also visit the county's COVID-19 webpage to review the full guidance. The city has announced a second round of funding under the city's Small Business Recovery Grant Program. The online application period for round 2 will go live this coming Monday, September 28th at 9 a.m. Program and application details are listed on the city's website at www.elkgrovecity.org/COVID-19biz. Under the same program, approximately 115 businesses were deemed eligible for funding in the first round, subject to final verification of information. Round 1 grants are being processed now, and the city expects all payments to be made within the next few weeks. Round 1 payments are expected to total approximately $450,000, leaving approximately $300,000 for the second round. Later tonight, under item 10.1, the council will consider allocating $200,000 in CARES Act funding for our nonprofit grant program. The funding was set aside for nonprofits that have experienced financial hardship due to COVID-19 pandemic and associated shutdown. And finally, another Great Plates update. Our Great Plates Delivered Senior Meal Program, which was launched all the way back on May 13th, is helping hundreds of seniors every day. There are 450 seniors and 15 restaurants, Elk Grove restaurants, currently participating in the program. More than 107,000 meals have been delivered to seniors in need since the program's launch. As of September 18th, Great Plates has invested more than $1.9 million in local restaurants. A new extension of the program has the program running right now through October 9th. And that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions that the council might have.
Are there any questions?
No questions.
All right, no questions. Let's go ahead and move into council comments, reports, and future agenda items. Councilmember Nguyen, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I had a paratransit board meeting with Councilmember Hume, where we went over the new business plan of paratransit and also discussed the future governance. Come November, our board structure will change from a 9-member board to a 7-member board. And so we'll go through application and looking at which 7 members from the 9 will be selected to move to proceed with Paratransit's board. The 4 pillars in which Paratransit talked about as their new business model was to continue around transportation, maintenance of the buses with both paratransit buses, and then also some of the community organizations that paratransit partners with and maintaining their bus, mobility management, and some software training and rentals. And so some really good, exciting pieces that we'll see paratransit move into. I'll let Councilmember Hume later, if he wants to share anything else. I won't take everything up on that. And just to kind of touch up on a couple of things in my full-time job, as we do, the Sacramento and the County CARES Act funding for the city of Sacramento was decided on, and in my role as the ED of ARI, we were very successful in securing some CARES Act money, and I just wanted to touch up on them a bit. We're providing contact tracers and business navigators. Our staff speak, read, and write 20 different languages. And so one of the things that we're tasked at doing is reaching out to those that have been tested positive for the virus and ensuring that they have the resources and information needed while they are quarantining. But also the business navigators, where they go out there and meet with businesses to make sure they have all of the necessary resources to continue to be open, stay open, and what services and assistance that we can provide them. In addition to that, we received some funding to provide some community health workers, where we work with several different community-based organizations all around the region, and making sure that they send us folks to be able to provide culturally appropriate and relevant outreach and education around the coronavirus, and where to receive services and resources. And then one of the things that one of our youth touched up on and she talked about was that California is moving to end the sale of new gas-empowered cars and trucks by 2035. And I'm happy to say that we are also working with CMC, California Mobility Center, in doing some pathway to careers in the electric mobility manufacturing field. And so in the next couple of years here, there's going to be thousands and thousands of jobs around electric mobility, and that the workforce needs to be very diverse, but that we need to have a trained workforce to be able to take on these jobs. And so one of the things that myself, La Familia, and Urban League are tasked with is making sure that we have a diverse workforce available to take on these positions. So anybody that's listening, if you're interested in taking a look at a new career field that's really going to take off, because when we stop the sales of new gas-empowered cars and move towards electric, this is going to be a career field in which you want to be in. And so I hope that they will contact me if they're interested in this. Specifically, our young people as well too. And then digital literacy. In the world that we're in right now, everything is done, even as we speak now, our meeting, and that there are a lot of folks that don't have the digital literacy, and that we're working through United Way to ensure that the community not only have access to, but also are familiar with and understand what that means. And then finally, I've been asked for the second time, this is only the second year that they're doing this, it's a county versus city golf tournament. And the county is led by Supervisor Patrick Kennedy, and the city of Sacramento is led through Daryl Steinberg. And it's a golf tournament where it's the county electeds and the city electeds play against each other, and funds that are raised are to go towards Hiram Johnson High School's golf program. I thought that was something that's very neat that they're doing, and hopefully something we can kind of model after here in the city of Elk Grove. I know, Mary, you're a golfer. I know Councilmember Pat Hume as well as a golfer, that I thought maybe we can work with staff in looking at something where we could do for some of our schools here that may need some assistance on some programmings like that. And then just kind of a question, wondering if, I know that when we have public comments, and one of the things I notice is that Mr. Lindgren, when he gives the 1-minute warning, sometimes it does interrupt the speaker's comments, and I can't hear what they're saying. I'm wondering if maybe instead of giving them that 1-minute verbal and letting them know, that we can use something like a bell or a ding or some sort, so that way we don't miss what they're saying, but also it doesn't interrupt them while they're on their public comments. Because I've noticed that when he does do that, and he does let the public know that as it gets to the warning, he will let them know. But it does, I've noticed, kind of stops them from what they're saying, and then they have to catch themselves again to kind of think about how they're going to finish it up. And so that's all that I have, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's go ahead and move on to Councilmember Hume.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be fairly brief. I had a RT meeting following the Monday following the last council meeting. Nothing to report of concern to the city of Elk Grove. Most of the meeting was consumed by closed session matters. That following Wednesday, we had a board meeting of the Sacramento Transportation Authority. I'll let the majority of what transpired at that meeting be discussed by Councilmember Soon, given that he's the chair. But I will say that the primary bulk of the conversation was centered around the fact that the Measure A program that was adopted by the voters, I believe, in 2004, is going to be grossly underfunded here in the outlying years of the program. The good news is that the city of Elk Grove was aggressive early on, and so we've received what would be at this point probably more than our quote-unquote fair share of the program. But there's going to be some difficult decisions down the line, paired with the decennial review of that program for the construction improvement program. And some projects are going to take some pretty significant haircuts. So that's not going to be a fun discussion. And it's going to be a little bit of a dicey endeavor, because there were a lot of named projects when that measure was adopted by the voters at like 73% approval. So, but I'll let Chair Soon discuss that more. Had a sanitation board district this morning, what the mayor and I did, and the only significant thing to note was we adopted a resolution to recognize the retirement of Ruben Robles, who was the manager out at the sewage treatment plant, and he's also an Elk Grove resident, and he capped off his 29-year career with the sanitation district, and he's just an exemplary public servant, and wish him well in his retirement. This Friday, I was asked to play in that county city golf tournament, and I do support doing something like that here in Elk Grove, Councilmember Wynn. But unfortunately, I have a San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority meeting that morning, and so I cannot to join you out there on the course. And then next Monday is an RT meeting. And then as far as council comments, I will be recusing myself on item 9.1, so I can't make this comment then. But I just want to say I have probably close to a ream and a half of paper backing up that item, which is essentially just the roadway rehabilitation and repair. So I won't discuss the merits of that particular agenda item, but just say that I think that's extreme to print out the entirety of the environmental report that includes things as, maps and aerials going back to the early 1930s and 1960s and 1980s. And it was a lot of information that I think could be shared as a digital link and save the trees needed to print out that paper and not have a binder that's 6 inches thick. So I don't know if that needs a general consensus or if just me, but I don't think we needed as much backup as we received. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. And Councilmember Sun.
Thank you, Mayor. To continue on where Councilmember Hume left off on the STA meeting, just like the amount of funds left, there isn't much left to say. We'll be short on funds. I guess I'll only add that in the effort to bring forward money bonding so that money can be advanced in construction projects to begin early, also reduce the capacity of the amount of funding available, as well as the recession, as many folks remember, that hindered the generation of those sales tax dollars. So in the end, we're left with only a small fraction, and so it'll be some tough conversations ahead. But as Councilmember Hume mentioned, happy that at least by the, luck of the draw, that our city was able to take advantage of that earlier on, and so we got more than or at least our fair share out of that. Similarly, we had a SACOG board meeting where we discussed the possibility of allocating funds via formula to provide some certainty in our programs. It was a very tough conversation to have, as there were many different feelings about that. In the end, the board elected to continue with the competitive award, meaning that we will continue to apply and compete amongst each other for projects, and as long as they are within the Metropolitan Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy, which is the guiding documents for these awards. We also had a Library Authority budget meeting, and like most budgets, we're contending with the pandemic there as well. Tomorrow we have a Library Authority board meeting with Councilmember Wynn, and finally, I just want to revisit something that I know staff's been working with for some time. I think well over a year ago, council directed staff to begin working or negotiations on a community workforce training agreement with Sacramento Sierra Building Trades Council. And I think the conversations have been going on, but I think there's been some misdirection. So I just wanted to bring things back if council will support. But I think the intent of the policy was to focus on the city of Sacramento's model, but not that, recognizing we're Elk Grove and we're different. So, but just as a basis, but that it not be a pilot project, that would be something a little bit more comprehensive. And with that intent, I think if we could re-engage on that effort, direct staff to work with Sierra Building Trades Council and to bring back something, since it's been going on now for some time, perhaps something we can bring back at the November 11th council meeting for discussion and action. I would appreciate that council's consideration of that and support there. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, Councilmember Sun, thank you. I'm sorry, Mayor, if you don't mind. I do appreciate you bringing this, only because as I talked about the CARES Act funding and what we're going through right now, a lot of people have lost their job. Many places have shut down. And one of the things that still stayed consistent was construction and labor. And as a workforce development organization, we're feeling that and we're seeing that, and that we know that there are going to be jobs that are available, but we need to make sure, as I mentioned a workforce that is going to be readily available, and that these jobs are going to be available as well too. And so I get to see that every day in my line of work. And you're right, Councilmember Soon, is that this has been going on for, to this date, almost 2.5 years now. And so I would like to make sure that we have a opportunity to discuss this and vote on this before my term is up, because this is kind of what I've gone through in my line of work. And I'd like to be a part of this discussion, but because the Brown Act, right, we can't have more than 3 people in a discussion on this. And so, I get to just hear from it based off of what is brought forward. And I think at the last meeting was the first time we kind of heard a little bit publicly. But also I'd like an opportunity for us to bring this forward. And I think you mentioned the November 11th meeting. And I'm all for that. I think it's about time that we bring this forward so that we can all discuss this, talk about it, and vote on it as well too. So you have my support on that.
Excellent. Councilmember Sun, I'm pleased that you're mentioning this again. I had thought that we've already agreed in the last meeting that this was going to come back. Is this just a specific direction as to the date? Is that where you're aiming for?
Well, a little bit more date certain, but more in the what I understand, the conversations have been centered around a pilot project, and I don't believe that was the intent of the original direction. So that's all.
Okay.
But everything else.
Yeah, I think that's very good. But I am kind of curious, why November 11th? Is there anything special about that date, or it's just towards the end of the year, or?
Yeah, just towards the end of the year.
Yeah,
You want to go farther?
Yeah, I would support it, Councilmember Sun. It wouldn't, no hesitation. My only request to staff is it really going to take until November 11th? Bring it as soon as we can. We'd like to discuss this. I think that, I can agree that we waited, long enough. And to your point, Councilmember Nguyen, construction certainly hasn't slowed down with this pandemic. This is an opportunity for us to review and fine tune, CWTA. And I've always been an advocate before that this is a good opportunity to leverage limited resources, city resources, to make sure that it goes to train people, for people who are training, switching industries, to train young people who aren't going to college. This is perfect. So, I would be in support of it. But I would, under the recommendation that once staff is ready to bring it forward, let's bring it forward. I'm not married to November the 11th. There's nothing special to me about that date. I think that this should have happened early on. So.
I think at the last meeting, Mr. Bierman said it was going to be brought forward in 2021, right? And so I think the November 11th gives staff and the Sacramento Sierra Building Trades and their affiliates an opportunity to go through a little more. As Councilmember Steen said, there's been some changes, and that he said something about a pilot project, and so it gives them an opportunity to go back and revisit this and bring something forward, right? I think staff is at the last meeting understand this was going to come in 2021, and so this gives them a little bit less time than 2021, and gives them a little bit over a month to kind of pull this together so we can have a discussion on it.
Yeah, and I'm fine so long as I don't want to overburden staff, but at the same time, I think it's good that we have a clear direction to staff now, because prior to this, there's been ambiguity, and after numerous conversation with staff, and I can appreciate that if there's ambiguity from the council, staff wouldn't know what direction to go. So this is good.
Yep, I agree.
Councilmember Hume, did you have something to add?
The only thing I'll add is, having sat on the ad hoc committee with Councilmember Suen and gone through all of the negotiations, we are not at a point where we are going to use the Sacramento model as a starting point. I think we've negotiated well beyond that at this point. So that would be going backwards in my estimation.
Okay, I reserve the full deliberation until it comes back. Thank you, gentlemen and ma'am. And in terms of my report, I wanted to direct a question to the city attorney, Mr. Hobbs. I'm hearing some of the concerns from the speaker, and I have to somewhat agree. Is there a way that we can limit public comment to issues that are related to the city?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Brown Act allows the public to make public comment on very broad matters. I'm not comfortable that we can limit it to, as one of the speakers suggested, the technical requirement is anything within the jurisdiction of the city. Elections are part of the city. It would be very difficult to try to train it down to something that would say what some of the speakers have said is political versus non-political. So the First Amendment is fairly broad. The Brown Act encourages public comment. So I'm just not comfortable we'd be able to meaningfully do that, Mr. Mayor, unfortunately.
So let's say if there was a member of the public who came up and wanted to talk about three-horned toad in the Middle East, they could, within the 3 minutes, talk about that?
Well, I'm not sure that would be within the jurisdiction of the city at all. So that might be an exception that you have identified where one could limit that type of speech.
You know,
there are some limitations, but it's pretty broad. If it really has anything to do with the city in any context, generally it's going to be allowed public comment.
Yeah, and I know previously we've been pretty relaxed on that. You know, I mean, I can't remember off the top of my head any speaker who spoke on issues that really was not even within our jurisdiction. But how do we even address that until they start speaking and we realize where they're going?
Well, the way that you would address it is you would advise the speaker that it's outside the jurisdiction of the city. The practicality of that is by the time you have that discussion, 3 minutes is often completed. And that might be one of the reasons why this city and other cities I have had the opportunity to work with and for are generally pretty lax about their policies on public comment.
I see. Okay. One other issue that I didn't want to bring to Mr. Bierman's attention is it seems like a lot of this is related to school board. When is our next 2x2 with the school board? And based on what the speakers are saying, they're saying that public comment is being limited at the school board. Is that why they're taking it here? That's my understanding.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not familiar with any limitation at the school board, and we currently don't have a 2x2 on the calendar right now, but if you're interested in getting one on there, we can certainly work to schedule something.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an issue that can piggyback off of other issues that we have that we want to discuss with the school board. But, you know, I mean, I don't know if there's any truth to that, and a number of these speakers have mentioned that. And so, you know, at least it's on our radar so that in the event that we get into 2x2, we can probably discuss this and see what we can do to help, you know, because I think what's important here is allow people to come and share their grievances with their government. But, you know, if it's not within our jurisdiction to address any sort of issues with a member of a board, then, you know, obviously that needs to be directed to the appropriate board. And that's my concern and feeling. In addition to that, you know, to a couple of the speakers who have mentioned this, let me just make it clear that I am not using this public comment as a campaigning. I have consistently campaigned out in the public, and that's where I know, and that's where I think it's appropriate. I think bringing it into council chambers and clouding the council business does slow us down. And with all due respect, I understand that members of the public do feel frustrated, and this is a venue in which they would like to vent. But you know, out of respect for all staff that's involved and also council members, we do want to focus on things in which we can improve at the city and we can address policies. So if this is something that's related to the school board, you know, I hope that you continue to go and speak to your electeds at the school board. And to the gentleman who is not aware, these speakers are referring to one of the school board members. And so that being the case, you know, for those of you who want to watch debates, we have the Mayoral Debates that's coming on September the 29th at the Wackford, and then we have another one coming on October the 6th at the university. So in addition to that, I just wanted to report that attended the sanitation meeting this morning, and the air quality is for tomorrow. And that is it for my report. Let's move on. Thanks.
And just briefly, City Council, I did just want to touch base on a bit of housekeeping. When we are talking about our schedule going into November, what we have typically done is when the meeting date falls on the observed holiday for Veterans Day, November 11th, we typically have canceled the meeting, and we've done that for 2020. So as we calendared ahead as staff, we did cancel the regular meeting for November 11th. But what we have scheduled is a special meeting that will be on November 18th. That would be that one meeting opportunity that we currently have scheduled in the month of November. But I wanted to put that out there in case that makes any differences in the discussion that was happening earlier about scheduling future agenda items.
I'm okay with it going to the 18th.
Yeah, me too. That's fine. Thank you.
That's fine.
All right. And with that, then, that'll take us to Section 8, our consent calendar items.
Okay, want to go ahead and open for public comment. Mr. Clerk, is there anyone signed up to speak?
We did receive one request from a caller to come in and provide some comments under item 8.10, and I believe staff have them on the line.
Okay.
We do. Caller, you may go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mark Graham, Elk Grove, once again. Item 8.10. Renewal looks like an extension of this contract with Wilden Engineering. First thing, this should be pulled from the consent calendar and handled as a separate item on the agenda, in my opinion. There's too much history here, and it's too important a contract to handle like that. Wilden was a subcontractor for the Aquatic Center, right? And apparently they made mistakes with the concrete, which the concrete was defective, concrete was faulty. Now, is this do you really want to continue to do business with this company anymore, or still? You don't have to. The contract's going to run out October 31st. It seems like an awful lot of money. There have to be other companies in the Sacramento area that can provide the exact same services that they provide and not make major mistakes. You hire an engineering company based on their track record, and I'd say their track record with the Aquatic Center is a fiasco. In fact, as you will recall, the city sued Wilden Engineering, as well as seems like everybody else involved in that Aquatic Center. Among the causes of action cited in the filing include Wilden did not provide proper concrete design. Okay, well, that was a big deal, so I'm recommending against that. Now, can I comment on other items on the consent agenda now, or would that be a separate comment period? Well, I'm not hearing any sort of response. There's another thing on the agenda which I think should be pulled off the consent calendar and handled separately and handled at a future meeting, and that is 8.15 for police services of some kind. Police computer-aided dispatch system and records management system, software licensing and services. $2 million for the initial year and 4 subsequent renewal years. And it says dispensing with the competitive proposal process pursuant to the Municipal Code 3.42. No, don't dispense with competitive proposal process. This is exactly the type of thing that you need competitive proposals for and competitive bidding. It's an enormous contract. I don't really know what services they're providing, but $2 million for software and licensing and services for each of 5 years? That's over $10 million, and you're just going to give that money away without competitive bidding. No, you're supposed to be responsible stewards of the city's money, and that is not how to do it. The way to do it is go back and start over and have competitive bidding. Mr. City Manager, you should not approve this without competitive bidding. It's too important and too expensive. Lastly, I found, speaking of Wilden, it said on the Elk Grove News that Councilmember Dedrix raised $15,000 in, I believe it was the 6 months ending December 31st last year, even though you're not running for re-election. Well, good job fundraising. And it also said $15,000 came from 5 contributors, including a $5,000 contribution from Wilden and Wilden Engineering. So maybe I'd like to know what each council member's contributions are from Wilden Engineering, and I'm asking you to disclose that tonight during the council meeting before you have a vote on this. speak up and say how much money you've received in the last year from Wilden Engineering, and just so the public can know, and if it's substantial, recuse yourself. Last thing, I'm asking each council member, did you read the staff reports? Did you read the staff report cover to cover? If you did, please say so. If you did not, please say so, and please recuse yourself from this vote, from any item on which that you have not read the staff report. I have no idea where we are on time because I've turned off the microphone, but thank you very much. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Clerk, is there anyone signed up to speak?
Just checking my comms, and I have no other speakers signed up to speak on the consent calendar.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and close public comment. Mr. Hobbs, I know that you've already revisited this previously multiple times, but for clarification with Mr. Graham, does receiving contribution from any sort of entity creates a conflict of interest for any council members on voting on items?
No, it does not.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Lindgren, Mr. Graham asked specifically to contribution. Aren't those disclosed in the 460s on our city website?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. Those are posted up on the city website.
All right, so anyone who's curious, you're free to go take a look. All right, thank you. I'll open it up for any sort of motion for the consent.
Motion.
Got a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion second, and roll call, please.
For the roll call vote on the consent calendar items, Councilmember Nguyen.
Yes.
Councilmember Hume.
Aye.
Councilmember Suen.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dedrix is absent, and Mayor Lee.
Yes.
The consent calendar items will pass 4-0.
All right, let's move to the next item.
Let's take us to section 9, our public hearings. That one public hearing is a public hearing to consider a resolution adopting the mitigated negative declaration and the mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the arterial roads rehabilitation and bicycle lane improvements project, WPR 014, and approving the project.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Lee and council members. My name is Kristen Parsons.
Before we go too far, Ms. Parsons, I did just want to touch base with Councilmember Hume.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Lindgren. I will be recusing myself from this item. Mr. Hobbs, is there anything that I need to do other than keep my microphone on mute?
You can keep your microphone on mute, and you can watch the presentation and just not participate. And I would just note the purpose of the reason for the recusal is your property ownership within 500 feet of the project, which calls for your recusal.
Very good. Noted. See you guys on the next item.
Thank you, Ms. Parsons. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Lee and council members. My name is Kristen Parsons. I am one of your senior civil engineers in the Capital Improvement Program. I am here tonight to present this item before you and to request that you adopt the mitigated negative declaration, adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting plan, and approve the project. This project is located on the east side of Elk Grove. The purpose of the project is to improve the pavement condition and to provide bike lanes in each direction on Waterman Road and Elk Grove Florin Road, supporting the goal of providing continuous bike routes in the eastern portion of the city. The limits of work include Waterman Road from Grant Line Road to Mainline Drive, and again from Elk Grove Boulevard to Bond Road, where much of the area is undeveloped with drainage ditches on one or both sides. It also includes a section on Elk Grove Florin Road from Valley Oak Lane to Elk Grove Boulevard. Once the environmental phase is completed, the city will move this project into final design. The segment shown in blue here will be reconstructed and widened with shoulders to accommodate Class 2 bike lanes, and the segment shown in green will be resurfaced and restriped to also provide bike lanes. These segments are of a condition that further deterioration would likely result in costlier replacement of pavement in the future. In addition, some fences, overhead utility poles, drainage ditches, and driveway drainage ditch culverts will be relocated within the city rights-of-way to accommodate the road expansion in the blue segments. The selected segments are shown in the city's bicycle, pedestrian, and trails master plan as having future Class 2 bike lanes, and construction of this project will extend the useful life of the pavement, improve ride quality for both motorists and cyclists, fill in gaps in the existing Class 2 bike lane network, and will improve pedestrian access in East Elk Grove. These typical sections show how the blue segments depicted in the previous slides will be widened and pavement will be reconstructed to provide the wider shoulders and to accommodate the Class 2 bike lanes in both directions. That would be the section at the top here. Similarly, the green segments will receive a 2-inch grind and pavement overlay and will be restriped to provide the Class 2 bike lane in both directions. Those segments will all be completed within the existing pavement section and will not be widened. That's the lower section shown. This photo represents the existing condition on much of the Waterman Road segments. You can see the narrow travel lanes, no shoulder, fences set back just several feet from the edge of travel lane in many cases, and there are narrow driveways in some cases. This project will bring Waterman Road to current standards, and where there are existing fences near the edge of the road which are impacted, the project will build new fences at the property line. I wanted to show this slide to remind you of the project that we did a couple years ago on Waterman Road from Bond Road to just south of the Sheldon Waterman roundabout. That project was very similar in nature to this project, so it gives you a good before and after view of what much of Waterman Road will look like. The project will also construct a new mid-block pedestrian crossing along Elk Grove Florin Road between Cadura Circle and Plaza Park Drive. We will construct a rectangular rapid flashing beacon known as an RRFB at this location, similar to the one just south of City Hall on Laguna Springs Drive, as shown in these photos. This project will also extend a small portion of an existing sidewalk segment on the western side of Waterman Road, just south of Bond Road, from the existing bridge structure to the Laguna Creek Trail parking area. So it's just this small segment in red shown right here, connecting from the existing sidewalk on the bridge just around the corner into the parking area. I presented this project to the Trails Committee on October 15th in 2018 to inform them of the project, obtain feedback as it pertains to implementing the city's bicycle and pedestrian requirements. We then, a month later, held an open house for property owners, residents, business owners, and other interested stakeholders. The project was presented to them, feedback was collected regarding potential traffic impacts during construction, and questions were answered regarding anticipated work in specific locations. In addition, we designed a project website for this project, which can be found under the Public Works Capital Improvements page on the city's website. The proposed improvements included in this project were analyzed in an initial study, and as a result, the city determined that a mitigated negative declaration was appropriate for the project, as all potential significant impacts could be mitigated to a less than significant level. Prior to approval of the project, City Council must adopt the mitigated negative declaration and the associated mitigation monitoring and reporting program. Environmental pre-construction surveys and awareness training are required by this project. The initial study and mitigated negative declaration was circulated for public comment from July 24th through August 22nd of this year. During that time, 2 comment letters and 1 comment email were received from 2 agencies, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and Sacramento Municipal Utility District, known as SMUD. Both letters were fairly standard, and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife letter requested the addition of some language regarding nesting birds, and in response, we revised the mitigation measure Bio 4 to address this. Well, the summer of 2021 is shaping up to be a very busy roadway construction season on the southeast side of town. Staff is analyzing how traffic would best be handled during construction of this project in relation to other projects scheduled for construction in the area, such as Grant Line Road from Waterman to Bradshaw, which is currently advertised for bidding. There are a number of benefits to using a full closure for the segments requiring reconstruction and widening, and these include shorter durations for construction and traffic impacts, increased safety for workers, and lower construction costs. In addition, at our open house, we received favorable feedback regarding a full closure for these segments. At this time, staff is planning for a full closure due to the success of the Waterman Road Rehabilitation and Bike Lanes project, as well as the Waterman Sheldon and Bradshaw Sheldon roundabout projects. The total budget for this project is a little over $7.5 million, and it consists of a little over $3.1 million in federal grant funds from the Regional Surface Transportation Program and $4.4 million in local funds consisting of Measure A, roadway fee, gas tax, SB1 funds, and drainage fee funds. The next step for this project includes finishing the federal environmental clearance process, which is anticipated to be complete in late October or November of this year. The project is on schedule to advertise for construction in January of 2021, with construction anticipated to start in the spring and be complete in the fall of 2021. Staff recommends that Council adopt the mitigated negative declaration, adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting program, and approve this project. Thank you for your time. That concludes my presentation, and at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions?
No questions.
Member Nguyen?
No questions, sir.
No questions. Perfectly clear. Thank you, ma'am. At this point, I want to declare public hearing open and open for public comment opportunity. Mr. Clerk, members of the public signed up to speak. Anyone?
Mayor and Council, I have no callers that have requested to call in on this item. We did receive 2 written comments from members of the public. Those were circulated to the full City Council and staff prior to the meeting.
Okay, thank you, sir. So I'm going to go ahead and close public comment and declare public hearing closed. Council deliberation and direction. Members?
I'll move staff's recommendation.
Yes, I was just going to say I'm happy to see this happen. Looking at the pictures and hearing the explanation and showing what's going to happen, I think it's good for our entire city, right? And so I second that motion.
That's the only thing I'd like to add is, I've heard from a number of residents throughout the years complaining about that particular road. So, I'm glad it's happening because you'll make a lot of people happy with this decision. So we got a motion second. Let's go ahead and roll call.
For the roll call vote for the resolution under item 9.1, the vote, start off with the roll call. Councilmember Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilmember Hume stated his recusal, so he will not be participating in the vote on this item. Councilmember Suen?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dedrix is absent, and Mayor Lee?
Yes.
With that, the motion under item 9.1 will pass with a 3-0 vote. And that will take us on to our section 10 regular agenda action items and recommendations. Starting with item 10.1, which is consider a resolution allocating the CARES nonprofit grant program funding.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. This is Sarah Bontrager, your Housing and Public Services Manager. I have a brief presentation on our CARES program awards for nonprofits. This program was established by the council in July to assist nonprofits that have experienced some sort of financial hardship due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Many of our nonprofits are struggling. They've experienced the cancellation of fundraising events, as well as for many, the need for services has increased. And so the thought was to make up to $200,000 of the CARES Act funding that the city received via the state available to some of our nonprofits. So we ran a 2-week application process for nonprofits, announcing it through a press release, through our social media channels, and an email that we sent out to our nonprofit interest list, which includes any nonprofit who's ever asked to be added to that or applied for funding at the city. Ultimately, we received 20 applications, and 17 of those met our threshold review. So for this opportunity, we were fortunate to have a review panel of community members who took a look at each of the applications. And I would like to take this opportunity to commend the 4 panelists that we had. Jesse Bermudez, Andrea Kleinenberg, Clifford Loveland, and Samantha Tov. And each of them really carefully reviewed the applications and provided very thoughtful comments and points of discussion as we went through these applications. And it was a really nice experience to work with them and have some outside perspective. So some of the highlights of the factors that they reviewed and considered in their funding recommendations. First and foremost, the organizations needed to show that they'd been clearly financially impacted by COVID-19. This was generally pretty easy. As I said, a lot of them had canceled fundraising events or weren't able to hold some of their regular activities or programming. They needed to show that they needed financial assistance in order to remain operational. The committee also looked at the impact of the program on our community and, as a federal rule, the ability to expend funds on eligible costs by December 30th. So each of the review panel members scored the application separately, and then I took the scores and averaged them for our discussion. And we had a 2-hour meeting to discuss the applications, and the panelists made funding recommendations. So all of the panelists were in agreement on the recommendations that you see in your staff report, and that I'll highlight in just a second. And there was a lot of discussion about what were priorities. And in general, the panelists felt that the most important thing was helping our nonprofits stay afloat and move toward long-term stability. Many of them have been fixtures in our community for dozens of years, and we can't afford to lose them. And so they had an eye toward long-term stability. And they also wanted to focus on youth, and the panelists spent some time discussing some of the special challenges that youth have faced during the pandemic, educationally, socially, and otherwise, and they wanted to recognize that in the awards. So the funding recommendations, I'll just run through really quickly. The Elk Grove Aquatics Club was recommended for $25,000 in funding. The Elk Grove Chamber of Commerce, $10,000. Elk Grove Fine Arts Center, $10,000. Elk Grove Swim Team Boosters, $5,000. Elk Grove Youth Baseball, $14,000. Friends of the Elk Grove Animal Shelter, $10,000. Joseph Sims Elementary School PTO, $5,000. The Kiwanis Club of Elk Grove, $5,500. Laguna Sunrise Rotary Club, $25,000. Project Ride, $25,000. Rise All, $4,020. Sacramento Asian Sports Foundation, $25,000. Starting Point for Refugee Children, $5,000. The Strauss Festival, $13,980, which was their exact request. Teen Center USA, $17,500. And so as you look through this list of nonprofits, you'll probably notice that a lot of them are nonprofits that we work with regularly. The Teen Center, the Strauss Festival, Project Ride, and a few of the others. And some of them are organizations that are that have been around in the community a long time, but haven't routinely asked for any city funding or support. And so we were happy to see that we got a mix of organizations that we've long known and those that have generally operated on their own without city assistance, but just needing a little bit of a hand up at this point in time. So the council can choose to move forward with those recommended amounts and awards, or can adjust them in any way that you see fit, or I suppose not award any of them and direct staff to go back out with a different application process. But provided you approve some awards tonight, we will work with the nonprofits to ensure that they have enough eligible costs in order to expend all of the funds, and we'll enter into contracts with them and provide the funds as an advance in order to meet the state's deadline for getting money out the door for encumbering funds, which is the end of October. And then we will collect backup documentation to make sure that all of the funds were properly spent. So that is what I have for you tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions?
Not a question. Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. Jason, do we have any comments signed up other than what's been received by Green Sheets to this point?
Under item 10.1, no requests to call in. We've only received the 5 written comments, and 3 audio comments were submitted as well, but all of those were routed to the full council and staff.
Very good. Thank you. In that case, I would move staff's recommendation and recognize the hard work of the unaffiliated citizen representatives.
I'll second that motion and also want to commend staff. We don't have much to go around, and I know it's a lot of hard work that you guys put in. So great job. Thank you.
So before I call the question, I did have a question for Sarah. Sarah, did you clarify as to, I see 3 of them that weren't eligible. Were the scores just too low?
No, those that were identified as ineligible were not even scored. So their Chicks in Crisis was not eligible because they had already received some of our community development block grant funding, the CDBG CV funding. And they are eligible for more of that funding. In fact, we recently found out from HUD that we'll be getting a secondary allocation of that funding source of more than $700,000. And so we have more funds yet to allocate. So it's likely we will be able to accommodate their request, just not using this funding source, which we wanted to really use for those organizations that could not make use of our CDBG funding resource. And then the other 2 organizations did not meet a threshold requirement. Sometimes they did not submit the proper documents to show that they were registered as a nonprofit, or weren't able to meet some of the other city requirements, such as for insurance.
Oh, I see. And so I'm looking at the chart, and I see the reason for not funding. There's 2 organizations that didn't receive funding, and these are the excuses on the far right column?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. My only thought is, during this pandemic, I wonder if there's a way in which we can squeeze some water out of a rock, either streamlining some of the awards and for those that are qualified to give them a little. I know that there's a motion on the floor, but I wanted to throw that on the table and see what council members feel about it.
As the mayor, I appreciate the sentiment, and I'd like to be able to support you on that. But I think, at this point, it's come to us with a lot of people taking a lot of time to sort through this. And so you know, just at the worry of starting to pull on the threads of a sweater, I think it's just easier to go forward with the work that's already been done.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Mayor, I'll remind.
Go ahead.
Well, Mayor, I just want to remind you, you know, we all are allotted a small budget, each council member. So if it's only a little bit, and you know, all of us have it, we use it at our discretion as well.
Yeah. All right. Just thought I'd put it on the table. But we have a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and roll call vote.
For the roll call vote for the resolution under item 10.1, Councilmember Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilmember Hume?
Aye.
Councilmember Suen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dedrix is absent, and Mayor Lee?
Yes.
The resolution of item 10.1 will pass by a 4-0 vote. With that will take us on to item 10.2, which is to consider a resolution revising the City of Elk Grove Speed Control Program guidelines and seek direction from City Council regarding resurveying of certain streets.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, City Council. This is Ryan Chapman with Public Works Department. To begin with, I wanted to make sure everyone could see the PowerPoint presentation.
You have audio and visual, Mr. Chapman. Please proceed. Everything looks good.
Excellent. So this is consideration of the revision of the speed control program guidelines. So a little bit of background. In April of 2019, the City Council reviewed and approved revisions to the speed control program. At that time, we established a 5-step process for the placement of speed humps on residential streets, starting with a petition, then a review by the fire department, approval of hump locations by the adjacent property owners, a final vote for speed hump installation, and then the humps would be programmed for implementation. The main purpose of this proposal that we're bringing to you, the recommendation would be to remove the 75% response rate on step 4 of the process. We've had multiple applications where the applicants have expressed concerns that the 75% response rate at step 4 results in the failure of the speed hump request. And the response rates at this step are typically lower compared to the initial petitions for the program. Just some of the numbers. Out of the 21 complete speed control applications that we've received, 6 have met the requirements and have been installed. 7 did not meet the final response requirement and were not installed. And then the remaining were not installed because they did not meet other requirements of the policy or failed to meet the 75% support requirement on step 4. We are recommending that the speed control programs be revised to remove that 75% response rate, add some language clarifying the approval process and the dates that we will accept those final surveys. We're also recommending that for those 7 locations that did not meet the 75% response rate, we resurvey them on step 4 to see if they would be eligible if these changes were made. And this change will likely result in more speed humps being approved. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available if there are any questions.
Are there any questions? Seeing that there are no questions.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and open for public comment. Mr. Clerk, anyone sign up to speak?
I do have 3 callers who requested to dial in this evening. As well, we did receive 10 written comments, and those were distributed to the full City Council and staff prior to the meeting. But right now, staff will be patching through one of our first callers, first item 10.2.
Caller, you may go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mike Allen, and I see that I've received a letter from Mr. Chapman about speed bumps. I don't know exactly what number on your docket this would be called, but a couple months ago, I was trying to have some speed bumps put up on my road out front, Elk Way. Went through the whole thing about getting the process started and done, only to be shot down by the very last procedure, which would have been a redundancy of having more paperwork done as far as another mail out done. Sorry, I'm a little nervous here. The problem was having the last thing done after going through months of a lot of legwork, a lot of contacting people, having things signed, and only to be stopped by the last letter to go out from the office, and enough papers didn't come back, enough signatures didn't come back to meet the criteria. I believe it was 75% of 40 people, which would have been about 30 people, I believe. They didn't get enough. So now I got this letter that says Mr. Chapman is trying to introduce something to help alleviate that problem, especially after all the work that went through prior to the last thing that needed to be done. Hope I'm presenting this correctly. Then now I get this letter saying that they are trying to help this problem out by making it not so stringent, so that all the previous endeavors wouldn't be just shot down by one last thing. I just wanted to kind of throw my 2 cents in there about this whole thing and hope that the city council, with your vote to help us with this, would hopefully go the right way as far as I'm concerned, and many of us Elk Grove residents are concerned. I had a lot of people come up and ask me when this letter came out why this came up now, and I, of course, had no answer because I just received this a couple of days ago. I did talk to Mr. Chapman, was it yesterday or today? I can't remember, and told me that I would be able to call in tonight instead of presenting this face-to-face, which I would much rather have done. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure that you heard my side of this, and I do approve of what Mr. Chapman is proposing and hope that it would be voted accordingly. That's really all I have to say. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you, Speaker. Just to touch base with the council, I did try hitting a sound effect as he wrapped up to 1 minute, and the speaker did complete right under the 3-minute mark. But I'm just out of curiosity, was the council able to hear the sound effects on your side?
I did not, Jason.
Okay.
I didn't either.
Okay. Trying over here to see what we can do in order to build a better mousetrap in terms of working in this teleconference environment with timed speakers.
Is there a possibility of sharing a screen that would have a countdown timer on it? Would that be helpful?
In some ways not, though. We do have a delay that goes out, and so if an actual speaker is trying to pull up the screen, there will be on a time delay between what they're viewing on the screen and what they're hearing on the live phone call.
Gotcha.
Creates a bit of a challenging environment. What we will do is try to pull in our next speaker for item 10.2.
Caller, you may go ahead.
Hi, this is Chris.
Coming in loud and clear. Please proceed.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call. My comment is in relation to revising the speed control program guidelines, item 10.2. I live on Egret Drive with my 7-year-old son and his mother. To give you a brief history, we petitioned for speed humps on our street, Egret Drive, in early 2019. We went through the process of obtaining 75% approval of neighbors on Egret Drive, fire department approval, and speed hump placement approval. As you know, the final step in the process was to have a minimum response rate of 75% of the survey letters the city sent to surrounding neighbors who do not live on Egret Drive. Many of the people who live on the surrounding streets did not respond to their survey. This is a serious flaw in the process. If you're going to require people to be part of a survey, to come to an important decision regarding the safety of families who live on Egret Drive, you should require them to answer that survey. If people don't respond to the survey, that should not mean that the project should end. By the high amount of responses in favor of the speed humps that were received from our neighbors and the personal stories they shared with us about their concerns regarding the speeders on our street, this should be seriously taken into consideration to your speed control guidelines, item 10.2. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you for your comments, and we will be patching through our third and final speaker. I will check my comms to make sure I don't have any other additional signups to speak on this item. But I believe we'll be moving to our third and final speaker on item 10.2.
You can go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council member George Murphy here. I called in on this item tonight because, as you're well aware, I dealt with this just last year, these speed guidelines. And I wanted to say, I listened to Ryan's presentation, and I want to clear up one thing as far as the way I understand it. A support rate shows an interest, and a response rate shows either approval or disapproval of the project. That is akin to saying, go down and register to vote in November, but then when you go vote, if you do vote, and the results, we're just going to use the registration polls as the deciding factor. That doesn't make any sense when you're talking about people's properties. So I don't support this particular language. I would support something. I would support a support vote of something between 51% simple majority and a 2/3 super majority be considered as a determining factor when it comes to whether the project's going to go forward or not. Once people hear about things, they'll sign a petition, sometimes under pressure, sometimes emotionally. But as they think about it, just because they support it initially or have an interest in it doesn't mean they support it in the finality. So we need to make that determination and that distinction. The votes should be, whether the project goes forward or not, should be determined on the final vote. I call it the return votes or the response rate votes, rather than the initial interest votes. Using a little bit lower figure than 75%, I don't see where it would be a big problem, but only using votes that are returned as your factor. If you get 20 votes in and 11 say yes and 9 say no, the project goes forward, or vice versa, because that cuts both ways. The only other thing I would consider is two other things. I would consider some specific language as to what happens in the event of a tie vote, that no action would be taken on the project. And I also think that maybe there should be consideration for a minimum return rate. That may be somewhat problematic, but it would certainly give people some comfort that their vote and the community voted one way or the other. There was better support for it in total. So those are my comments. So I thank you for your time and consideration. And most of my comments in my email to you folks pretty much stand as they were, other than this using only return votes as the deciding factor, not the support vote or interest level return rate. So thank you all. Good night. Did you have any questions?
No, thanks, George.
And with that, that was our third and final speaker on item 10.2.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close public comments and council deliberation and direction.
Yeah, I have a question for staff before we get into motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So, Ryan, essentially what we would be doing is what Commissioner Murphy was just talking about, is only looking at the approval rate of the returned surveys, not requiring a response rate percentage. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then Do you have any feelings one way or another as far as the threshold of that approval rate? I think a bare majority is too low, but 75% might be too high. Do you have any input on that or feeling one way or the other?
Councilmember, this is Bob Murdoch, Public Works Director. I've seen in other jurisdictions varying numbers. Generally, it's always been a supermajority vote, so it could be, for example, 67%, 2/3, or 75%. What we've seen and say the neighborhoods that we've looked at that don't meet the response rate that we're recommending we do away with, everybody is well in excess of 2/3. I mean, we're in the 90% approval range on most of these areas.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then my last question is I have a specific request in mind where apparently it did not pass step 2, the fire department review, because they considered the roadway to be a critical arterial for their response rates. And I'm speaking of emergency response rates, not survey response rates. But where this speed bump would have been located, there's very few houses served beyond it, in my estimation. Is their determination final, or is there any kind of city process where we would maybe overrule?
Theirs is advisory. The policy doesn't require us to follow their recommendation, but in the past, we've never gone against the recommendation of the fire department.
Yeah, I understand that's a slippery slope, but it seems to be yielding a lot of control to what could be an arbitrary determination. Okay, those are my only questions. Thank you. I would entertain lowering the 75% to a 2/3, 66.7 or 67%.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Councilmember Soon here. Thank you. I'd have to go with, I'm going to go with staff's recommendation on this one. I think removing the response criteria after folks have already agreed to move forward with the process. At the end of the day, it's similar to, even the, we're in election season now, but people don't vote all the time. And if they don't vote, it shouldn't count against the folks that were advocating for the speed bump and took the time to vote. So I'd be in favor of keeping with staff's recommendation, but leaving it's a pretty high support rate, so leaving that criteria in place, but just removing the response rate criteria.
I have a question for Mr. Chapman, Mr. Mayor. The response rate, if you could walk me through this, if it's mailed to them, is it a yes, no kind of a response, or is it just a mail back if you approve of this, or if you are in favor of moving forward with this?
It's a yes, no. We send them a letter with a form that they can check a box, provide additional comments if they want, and a stamped envelope to return it to us.
So then the 58% that I see here, that you said an average, is it 58%? And I don't know, maybe Councilmember Hume asked this question. Did they return back all yeses, or are there some that were no's? Or 58% of all of the response rate were all yeses, you just didn't receive the others, and so you assume those as no's, or did you actually get some back that says no?
That 58% would be both yeses and nos. That's just the total number that were returned to us versus what we sent out.
But so I get it. So what you sent out, your 58% is what was returned to you. But of those 58%, I guess you're saying they're a mixture of both yeses and nos, right? And on an average, more yeses than there are nos.
Yes, the vast majority of responses we receive back are yes.
So I would be in favor of having that response rate, but I would lower it to 51%.
For the response rate or for the support rate?
The support rate.
Okay. So we've yet to hear from the mayor, but you're at 51%. I'm at 2/3%, and Councilmember Suen is at the existing 75%.
No, we're all over the place.
No, but
where do you come in, Mr. Mayor?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, I think Councilmember Suen is removing it completely.
I think we're all talking about removing the response rate. We're just talking about what the threshold for the support rate should be.
Oh, yeah. Okay, got it.
Okay, so I'm fine with that as well. So that narrows it down to the 50 and the 51 and 2/3, right?
Yeah, 51, 2/3, or 75% as it is.
Okay. I think the most important part is engagement and having the majority of the neighbors in support of it. That be the case. Bob? What is your inclination? Is obviously there's a rationale behind the 75%, but the request is to lower that. Any response to that?
I think it's beneficial to have a supermajority on a street simply because it's going to impact everyone on a daily basis. And generally speaking, that's not a very high threshold to meet. I think in a general election sense, if somebody got 67% of the vote, that would be a huge win. But when it comes to speed humps, a supermajority is, in our experience, is relatively easy to achieve if all you're doing is counting those that voted. So, but a supermajority does allow an expression of the neighborhood to say this is something that's desired by a significant portion of the neighbors, whether that's 67% or 75%. And just so you know that the average yes votes, if you're just looking at who voted on an average basis, is 92%. And Mayor, before you go any further, I'd like to make a clarification. I misspoke. Councilmember Hume asked about CSD Fire's role. It used to be advisory. In the last update we made it. They actually have the ability to veto the installation of speed humps. So if they say no, we are obligated to follow their direction. I'm sorry for the confusion.
Okay, so for clarification here is there seems to be consensus on removing the 75% response rate, leaving the 75% support rate, and that's 75% of those who responds, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Honestly, I'm fine with that, and I understand your logic. I think this is important that if we're going to build something in a neighborhood, we got to make sure that there's strong support of it. So. I support staff 75% support. So now we're all over the place. Suggestions?
I don't need to fall on this sword. I can go with the 75%.
Me too.
Okay.
I'll make the motion then for staff's recommendation on this one. Thanks.
Okay, and your motion is to remove the 75% response, right?
Response rate and keep the 75, as staff would recommend, to keep the 75% approval rate.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Right, roll call vote, please.
And for the roll call vote, Councilmember Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilmember Hume?
Aye.
Councilmember Suen?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dedrix is absent, and Mayor Lee?
Yes.
That item will pass 4-0 as the resolution that was presented under item 10.2. With that will take us on to item 10.3, which is to receive the quarterly budget update report and consider a resolution amending the fiscal year 2021 budget and clarifying purchase order reappropriations for fiscal year 2020-2021 and retaining a higher reserve for future reserve target support.
Hey, this is Shane Ryan, budget manager for the city. Can someone confirm my audio and PowerPoint slide?
Your audio is a little bit faint. If there's anything that you can do in order to turn up the audio that you're producing, but your image is coming in crystal clear.
All right, just give me one moment and I can try to bump up the audio.
And I'll say my thanks to staff or speakers when you do test to make sure you've got good audio and visual. It helps us get off on a good foot. So I appreciate folks taking the time as we operate in this teleconference environment. And we're hoping we didn't lose your complete audio. It just looks like staff are doing a process, logging back in. Sometimes these systems, it just requires you to close the program, restart, and come back in anew.
Yep, I'm hoping that's the case. Mr. City Clerk, can anyone confirm they can hear me again?
I can't hear you, so you are coming in. And then if you do just want to pull up your PowerPoint, I think we've got enough to go on.
Excellent. Thanks so much for that confirmation.
And your visual's up now. Please proceed.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. All right. Greetings, Mayor Lee and fellow city council members. My name is Shane Ryan, budget manager for the city. And I'm here today to present an update on the financial condition of the city with a focus on impacts to revenue stemming from the COVID-19 pandemic. Displayed is an overview of the agenda. We'll begin with a review of the budget activity and fund balance of the general fund at the end of fiscal year 1920, then briefly discuss any known information on fiscal year 2021 revenues, followed by briefly presenting revenue info on other major funds vulnerable to the pandemic, and then concluding with presenting staff recommended budget amendments to the current fiscal year. So before you is a proposed breakdown of general fund balance reserves. The total fund balance at the bottom is greater than the projection presented in the FY 2021 budget by over $3 million. Staff was asked to reduce spending during the spring months of 2020 amidst the pandemic, which significantly contributed to the fund balance generation. Revenues during the spring months aggregately performed better than expected, which I will discuss further in the presentation. The table before you shows that there's adequate and sufficient fund balance available to support staff's recommendation, which are a fund balance set aside of $2 million as part of the financing plan for the studio court tenant improvements, and also holding approximately $1 million in the undesignated category and adding it to the future reserve target support category, an acknowledgement of COVID's uncertain impacts on city revenues going forward. At the end of fiscal year 1920, general fund revenues exceeded the final budget by over $800,000 and exceeded the year-end estimate published in the current year budget by nearly $4 million. The year-end estimates shown here were also published in the current year budget and were developed during the early months of the pandemic. There were little to no data points at the time that could inform these estimates of the magnitude of impacts from COVID. Focusing on the most notable variances for sources vulnerable to the pandemic, first looking at sales tax. So the city received nearly $30 billion in sales tax revenue for the prior fiscal year, which is about $1 million more than what was budgeted and nearly $4 million more than the estimate published in the FY 2021 budget. According to city sales tax consultants, sales tax revenues experienced declines during the fourth quarter of the fiscal year amidst the pandemic, but were not nearly as severe as projected. The two most notable retail sectors that avoided major declines during spring of 2020 were new motor vehicle dealership sales, which is the city's largest business type, and state and county pools. That's related to online sales tax. And then utility users tax, or UUT, revenue received was over $600,000 less than budgeted. According to the city's UUT consultant, trends among electric, natural gas, and cable utility industries have been potentially impacted by COVID. Some utilities have suspended service disconnections due to non-payment for both residential and commercial customers until 2021. This provision likely affects UUT revenues. However, as these non-payment delinquencies are recovered by utilities, the city should expect a recovery of delayed UUT revenues sometime in the future. Since the shelter-in-place orders, there has been a significant increase in switching to over-the-top TV and streaming service providers from the traditional cable subscription. Unfortunately, utility users' taxes are not currently imposed on these streaming services. Transient occupancy tax, or TOT, revenue received for the prior fiscal year was nearly $800,000 less than budgeted. TOT received from April through June 2020 was less than half of the revenues received for those same months in 2019. Staff will continue to closely monitor these vulnerable revenue sources during the current fiscal year. Revenues received at year-end for all the other sources, including property taxes and franchise fees, were either close to or greater than budget. Now looking at the spending side of the general fund, at the end of the prior fiscal year, the city expended 97% of the general fund budget of nearly $79 million, which is shown in the table before you, resulting in a savings of over $2.5 million. Staff again was asked to reduce spending during those spring months of 2020 amidst the pandemic, which contributed to the overall expenditure savings and higher than projected fund balance, as I mentioned earlier. Primary sources of general fund actuals when compared to budget are in the police IT, community events, non-departmental, and animal services divisions. Over $1 million in savings was experienced in police IT due to delayed and deferred equipment purchases and projects. Over $500,000 in savings was experienced in the community and special events division due to several events being canceled or going virtual as a result of COVID. In the non-departmental division, $300,000 was budgeted for transfer outs to the Economic Development Fund and the Capital Reserve Fund in anticipation of available reserve contributions. These transfers did not occur in order to support future year reserve target levels. And then the Animal Services Division experienced nearly $175,000 in operational savings. The animal shelter was closed during the months of March through June amidst the pandemic and had minimal staffing, with services available by appointment only. So a quick look at the current year. In the current fiscal year revenues, there are very few data points this early in the year to provide any substantial information for the city. However, there's a lack of anecdotal evidence to indicate any further deterioration of sales tax and property tax revenues. Also, hotel occupancy rates have been steadily rising since April, indicating a gradual recovery trend in transient occupancy taxes. On July 22nd, Council adopted a resolution establishing a budget of a little over $2 million in CARES Act funding allocated to the city from the state to address public health and public safety impacts of COVID. Staff has identified a total of $720,000 in expenses incurred from March through June that are eligible and qualify for this CARES Act funding. However, after consulting with the city's financial auditing firm, it has been determined that the $720K cannot be recorded in FY 1920 and thus must be recorded in FY 2021. Therefore, an additional $720,000 in revenue is anticipated beyond the adopted FY 2021 budget. This additional revenue will help mitigate any further potential shortfalls in revenues as a result of COVID. Now focusing briefly on impacts from COVID on revenues of other major funds. Amongst the transportation funds, gas tax experienced a revenue shortage of nearly $400,000 when compared to budget due to a decline in fuel consumption, likely driven by the pandemic. However, the impact of the revenue shortage on fund balance was mitigated by expenditure savings stemmed from COVID restrictions on various operations and maintenance work. For the development services funds, Building permit revenues trended a bit lower than expected during the spring months as a result of the pandemic. Fortunately, the lower trend during the spring did not result in an overall shortage of building permit revenue for FY 19-20. However, despite the revenue impacts from COVID, both the Transportation and Development Services funds retain a positive fund balance. Unfortunately, the lower trend in building permit activity during the spring, particularly in the Laguna Ridge area, did result in a revenue shortfall in both the Laguna Ridge Supplemental Park Facilities Fee Fund and the Laguna Ridge Park Fee Fund of nearly $500,000 combined when compared to budget. To conclude this presentation, I will now review current year budget amendments proposed by staff. Staff recommends $2 million of general fund balance be contributed toward the cost of improvements to the studio court property as discussed earlier. To maintain a positive fund balance in the Laguna Ridge Park Fee Fund, the debt service contribution for the District 56 Nature Preserve will instead come from the Poppy Ridge and Laguna Ridge CFDs, which are eligible funding sources for the debt service. Homelessness funding was received in fall of 2017 that allows for spending on a homeless navigator position. This position has been funded in the general fund through last fiscal year. Staff recommends utilizing the state homelessness funding fund starting this fiscal year to fund this position at the total cost of about $180,000. A new operations supervisor position was authorized last fiscal year, but since it remained vacant throughout last year, it was mistakenly not included in the current year budget, so staff recommends increasing the budget in gas tax, Measure A, and drainage funds in total of about $155,000 amongst all three funds. The transit cost allocation charges for any given fiscal year, and this goes for all cost allocation charges for any given year, are developed based on activities that occurred during the most recent completed year, so i.e. 2 fiscal years back. Hence, the charges budgeted in the current year reflect activities that occurred 2 years ago. In an effort to fully capture costs before potential annexation with SAC-RT, staff recommends amending the cost allocation budget in the transit fund by an increase in the amount of $655,000 to include cost allocation charges since fiscal year 18-19. So that would be last fiscal year and this fiscal year. And that concludes my presentation. Now I'd like to turn the agenda item over to Council for public comment, deliberation, and consideration of adopting a resolution amending the fiscal year 2021 budget, clarifying purchase order reappropriations for FY 2021, and retaining a higher reserve for future reserve target support.
Any questions for Shane?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have a couple, if you may.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you. Shay, just a couple of questions, and you touched on this a little bit, both in the staff report as well as in your PowerPoint presentation, but on table 2 in the staff report where it lines out the budget, the year-end estimates, the actuals, and then the variance. I can understand the TOT being significantly down given that people aren't traveling and aren't staying in hotels. And you talk about the utility users tax is lower because of certain facilities not operating, as well as what you mentioned of the switch to streaming services as opposed to cable television. Can you walk me through the difference between the cable franchise fee and the utility users tax and why people switching to streaming affects the utility users tax?
So the utility users tax itself currently is not enforced on utilities, so streaming providers such as, let's say, a Netflix, Hulu, and Disney Plus, and all of these. So when people switch to those, they switch off of cable, they switch to these over-the-top streaming services. So there's not a utility users tax currently imposed and enforced on those entities. So if someone just completely quits their cable, quits Comcast completely, and decides, okay, I'm not gonna have that anymore as a service, then that utility users tax that was being paid by that customer is now basically foregone because they switched off of a traditional cable subscription.
Okay, I know at some point during the tenure of my time on the council, there was the decision to include cell phones on the utility users tax. I wasn't necessarily in favor of it at the time, but is there a move or something afoot, do you know, to where they would capture these streaming services within that UUT? Because I see that trend continuing. I guess is why I'm asking.
Yes, there has been several initiatives taken. So we get updates from our UUT consultant who provides us with legislative updates or legislative efforts, I should say, to both at the state and at the federal level to be able to impose those taxes either on a federal basis or on at least for the state of California. And there's been bills that have been attempted to go through even federal legislation, but as of this point, there's nothing official that is enforcing those taxes. But yes, there are efforts being made legislatively.
Okay. And then my final question is, can you, I don't need a line by line or get too far in the weeds on this, but can you give me an idea of the kind of capture that's happening under miscellaneous, where we had a little over $415,000 more than we thought we would receive?
Most of that is reimbursements and that were recently recorded, actually, as we closed out the fiscal year. And if you give me a moment, I can... Some of those things are mandated payments that come in along with our VLF payment in lieu of property tax, and then there's other miscellaneous reimbursements. There's several transactions that really go into that category. You know, I don't know if I want to provide all the details of each one, you know, in this environment, but I can certainly send you that detail if you'd like.
I don't necessarily need the detail. Let me cut to the chase of why I'm asking the question. Is that a line item that we should anticipate in future budgets?
That is a good question. So one of those line items, if you look at the table where you see the $80,000 that we put in for the year in estimate, so that payment is in additional state mandated VLF payment. That reimbursement we do traditionally get. It's not always $80,000. It's not always that amount, but we did start budgeting for that amount at least, which is in that year in estimate column in future. But a lot of these other reimbursements, no, they're very difficult to predict, and you know at times there are anomalies and one-time revenues that are hard to budget for.
All right, so it's kind of like putting on a coat that's been hanging in the closet and finding a bill in the pocket. So very good.
Councilmember Hume, if I can add to that, this is Brad Kane, your Director of Finance. You referenced Table 2 in the staff report, and if you look at Table 2, that will give you more detail of what made up that other revenue sources. So some of the things that you would find in there, the recycling and waste franchise fee came over budget. The public protection categories, that's some of the revenues that are collected in public safety. That also included some grant reimbursements that happen. And code enforcement, some of the activities that happen in code enforcement along with cannabis far exceeded what was anticipated in their original budget. So those are some highlights of other revenue sources that contributed to that change.
And I appreciate that. I see those as line items. I was speaking more to the $495,000 in the miscellaneous line item. Whether or not that could be anticipated revenue, but it sounds like Shay's saying that's kind of catch as catch can. So I'd rather have it come in as a surprise than budget for it and not get it. That concludes my questions, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, hearing that there are no questions, let's I'm going to go ahead and open for public comment. Mr. Clerk, anyone sign up to speak?
We did receive interest of a caller who'd like to be dialed in for item 10.3. Beyond that, we did not receive any pre-written comments or pre-recorded comments on item 10.3, but we do have one caller, and staff will patch them through as they become available.
Okay.
We have the caller on the line. You may go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and council members. First, let me begin by saying I really like being on wait for opportunity to speak. They play some really wonderful music. Second, I really want to thank Councilmember Nguyen for bringing this forth. I think it's really nice that we can look at that quarterly budget and receive our update and see the things that are going on.
and really keep our pulse on it. I thank you, Councilmember Hume, for your question so that we can really have a discussion about this and that it's not just under consent. So again, I appreciate the staff's efforts, the reports. It's good to hear some positive information, and I thank you for that. Since I have a couple more minutes, just one last comment. I didn't call in for 9.1, but I am absolutely thrilled that there's going to be some road work done on Waterman. Now, of course, I'm greedy, and I would have liked the bike lane to be separate from the road with the way some people drive within our city. However, I am grateful that we're going to be seeing some work done on that road. Thank you again. Have a good evening. Bye.
Okay, and there are no additional speakers, right?
There are no additional speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. Council deliberation and direction.
I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution amending the fiscal year 2021 budget, clarifying purchase order reappropriations for fiscal year 2021, and retaining a higher reserve for future reserve target support. I just want to quickly add, I'm glad to see the homeless navigator being refunded and continued on. Thank you.
Okay, got a motion. Is there a second?
Second, I'd like to add, I thank Ms. Wheat for her comment, but it was her recommendation during a public comment at a meeting that gave us the opportunity to ask staff to bring this back. She gave us credit, but really I want to thank her. So second.
All right, it's motion second. Roll call vote, please.
And that's to adopt the resolution under item 10.3, the roll call vote. Councilmember Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilmember Hume?
Aye.
Councilmember Suen?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dedrix is absent, and Mayor Lee?
Yes.
The resolution of item 10.3 will pass 4-0. With that will take us to item 10.4, which consider establishing a 2-member ad hoc committee of the City Council to discuss terms and provisions of an annexation agreement with Sacramento Regional Transit District.
I'd like to do a quick mic check. Jason, can you hear me?
Coming in loud and clear, Mr. Costa. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Mike Costa, your Transit System Manager. I do not have a PowerPoint presentation for this item and instead would primarily refer to the information contained in the published staff report. However, I would like to provide a very brief verbal presentation regarding the background and context for this item. Over the past several months, both City and SAC-RT staff have been negotiating specific terms and provisions for a possible annexation of the city's transit services into SAC-RT's district. This was stipulated when the city entered into services contract with SAC-RT back in July 2019. While many terms and provisions have been defined in the draft annexation agreement, there are still some outstanding terms and key deal points that require further negotiation and agreement. On September 14th of this year, SAC-RT Board of Directors voted to appoint their chair and vice chair to serve as representatives of the SAC-RT ad hoc subcommittee that would negotiate the outstanding terms and provisions for an annexation agreement with the city. Staff requests that the City Council consider tonight establishing its own 2-member advisory ad hoc committee of the Council to further negotiate the terms and provisions of an annexation agreement with SAC-RT's recently established ad hoc committee. Alternatively, City Council could decide not to form an ad hoc subcommittee and instead direct staff to continue working with SAC-RT staff and ad hoc committee directly to negotiate annexation's terms and provisions. It is important to note that any action tonight to establish an ad hoc committee of the City Council for the annexation agreement negotiations would not result in any formal decision regarding annexation or any financial impacts to the city at this time. Should any annexation agreement be finalized between the city and SAC-RT, that agreement, as well as a discussion of any financial impacts to the city resulting from that agreement, would be discussed with City Council in a subsequent item on a later date. This concludes my verbal presentation. I am available for any questions that Council may have on this item and request City Council's further direction regarding the establishment of an ad hoc committee for annexation negotiations.
Thank you, Mr. Costa. Are there any questions from the Council? Hearing that there are no questions, I'm going to go ahead and open for public comment. Mr. Clerk, is there any members of the public signed up to speak?
There is. We do have one member of the public interested in speaking on this item, and then just to confirm, there were no other written or pre-recorded statements that were forwarded on item 10.4. But we do have that one caller, and we'll bring him on once he is available.
All right, sir, you may go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Lee and Elk Grove City Council and staff. My name is Mike Barnbaum, and I wanted to provide to you some public transportation advocacy and consulting on the benefits of annexation of the city of Elk Grove to the Sacramento Regional Transit District, and why tonight's item is just an initial first step to begin a very exciting process. One of the benefits that you will see is that riders of EVAN, and in particular riders of SAC-RT Go paratransit services, will, under an agreement of annexation in the future, be able to take regional trips rather than trips only within Elk Grove or only within the current RT service spectrum. Currently, riders have to transfer between systems at the Cosumnes River College Light Rail and Transit Center. One city that can speak very well to a great relationship that they have developed with the Sacramento Regional Transit District since annexation is that of the city of Folsom. And SAC-RT Go paratransit services do provide regional trips and trips within Folsom and throughout the region. I wanted to speak on a couple of points that would be of very big interest to the ad hoc committee, though, for annexation. On fixed route service, I don't know if you are aware, RT mainly uses a double-digit route numbering for general fixed route and triple-digit route numbering for express routes. In Elk Grove, it's just the opposite. So one of the things that will have to be looked at is what would the route numbering be to eliminate confusion to the rider, but mostly provide simplicity and ease of understanding of the transit system's route numbering system and network. And the other thing I wanted to speak on is staffing and ease of job transfer. Hopefully, one of the key points in annexation is that all Elk Grove transit staff from administration on down would be easily transferred to employment with the Sacramento Regional Transit District and receive no interruption in their status of employment. As you know, there's a big backlog of unemployment due to the pandemic, and the last thing that we want to hear is that there's more unemployment. So ease of employment transition is going to be another key thing. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I am available to answer anything that you have before the call gets disconnected. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you this evening.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Clerk, is there any other members signed up to speak?
And just checking my comms really quick, but all is clear. That was our last speaker under item 10.4.
I'm going to go ahead and close public comment and council deliberation and direction.
So, Mr. Mayor, as the representative to RT, I would think it makes sense for me to be on this 2x2 as I've interfaced both with our staff and RT staff throughout the entirety of this negotiation. And then given her interface with RT during the transition with paratransit, I would recommend Councilmember Nguyen be the other person appointed.
You read my mind, Councilmember. I was actually thinking about you and Councilmember Nguyen.
I accept. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Do we need a vote on this, Mr. Hobbs?
Yeah, if you would just do a vote appointing those two at the ad hoc committee, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go ahead and move it. I'll take a second.
I'll second that.
There you go. That's cleaner that way. Thank you, Darren.
All right.
Sure.
And let's roll call vote, please.
And for that roll call vote for the appointment of Hume and Nguyen to the SAC-RT Advisory Ad Hoc Committee, we'll start the roll call vote. Councilmember Nguyen.
Yes.
Councilmember Hume.
Aye.
Councilmember Suen.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dedrix is absent, and Mayor Lee.
Yes.
And that appointment will go 4-0.
Right, that concludes our meeting, and let's go ahead and adjourn at 8:43 p.m. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
yes.
before we adjourn, I didn't mention it prior to the moment of silence because I couldn't get my microphone off of mute, but the community lost a great man in the name of Don Veninga, who was a former Community Services District Board member and very involved in various nonprofits. And I can tell you this, he was very generous, supporting a lot of Elk Grove organizations anonymously, and he passed away a couple of weeks ago. So
thank you,
sad
Councilor.
to lose.
Yeah,
Very sad to hear that.
Yeah, condolences to the family. He certainly will be missed in our community. So let's go ahead and adjourn in his honor at 8:44 p.m. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everybody.